Hi, welcome to the channel. Welcome to this latest hobbypocalypse video. What I had hoped to be bringing you tonight was a quick sort of almost live sort of painting tutorial as I work on Morvenn Vahl for the DZTV hobbypocalypse. However, as you can probably tell from my voice, I'm feeling pretty ropey. I was up at King of the North yesterday for DZTV. And it's utterly killed my throat. I was feeling a little worse for wear sort of all weekend, actually, or all week, but sort of tested clear for COVID, so went along to the tournament, but I'm really not feeling up to sort of doing a lot of talking at the moment. So what I have done this evening is just a little bit of work on Morvenn Vahl, just to get the OSL for her base all in place, and then when my voice has recovered a bit more, I will do the video that I was hoping to do to bring you as we look at sort of glazing the skirts around her waist and around the shoulder pads, and then start to work a little bit more on the leg armour and sort of working our way up to the torso. So I'll pop a quick photo in of where we are at the moment, and then hopefully in a couple of days I'll be feeling a bit better and talking a bit more normally, and we'll get some painting videos sorted for the hobbypocalypse, as well as the From the Forge stuff. So take care, look after yourselves, and we'll see you in a few days. Okay, welcome back. For me, it's the next day. And what I'm going to be looking at today is getting a similar sort of OSL fire effect to what I've done here on this leg, except I'm going to be doing it onto this section of Morvenn Vahl here, with the object being this brazier here. So the difference is very much one of height. This brazier, as you can see, is down at sort of ankle level, and is therefore very much throwing sort of the hottest part of its light into that ankle there and just over the top of the foot. Up here we're going to have something sort of the effect is going to be quite different, because the light is sort of coming down, so we're only going to have sort of quite a relatively weak effect down at foot level, and we're going to have sort of a greater impact sort of around the calf area here. So we're going to have to bear that in mind whilst we're doing this effect, because I can't keep the model on the base while I'm painting it. So we'll take that off and pop the base to one side. Now what I'm going to start, I'm going to use the same sort of colours as I did for the previous fire effect. I don't know if strictly this is how sort of the best painters would go about doing an OSL effect on a model like this, but I think it worked reasonably well on the other leg, so I'm going to copy the method. So I am going to start by using the palest colour that I'm going to be applying, and that is Citadel's Dawn Yellow. This is a really pale sort of almost pastel lemon sort of yellow, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to thin this down quite a bit, just to get sort of like an overall sort of tint. I'm effectively going to try and sort of turn it into a little bit of a yellow glaze. Now, I mean, I have got a yellow glaze, but I want this to be paler than that. So again, just a quick reminder as to where we're starting from and where we're going to be going to. So we'll just block in some of this yellow. That's looking a bit too thick there. So, and again, I'm using the Citadel medium layer brush in terms of brush size for this effect. I'm making a sort of a conscious effort with myself at the moment to increase the size of the brushes that I'm using for various effects and my painting, mainly because I think I've tended to always default in the past to slightly smaller brushes, thinking that my skill wasn't really up to painting detail with a larger brush. But what I've come to sort of discover is that actually a lot of the precision, if you like, comes from the brush point, not sort of how many bristles are on it. So if you've got a brush with a decent point, you can actually paint detail even if it's a larger brush. Now that's probably something more experienced painters will know more about, and certainly be able to sort of confirm. But it's a bit of knowledge that I've sort of come to know rather than being taught. So as you can see, I'm really just keeping this very, very light, just after a sort of a slight yellow tint, nothing more. And because the light source is above the ankle, I'm trying to keep the paint sort of on the upper surfaces of where it's going to be hitting. Bit like that. So we are going to get some on the cloth as well. However, the cloth itself should sort of absorb the light better than the armour, which would tend to reflect it more. For what I'm going to do with the cloth, I'm not going to do some of the later layers that you'll see where we start sort of putting a real hint of colour in there. So actually I'm just going to sort of wash this yellow in gently. A lot of this is actually going to be sort of away from the most obvious part of the model that you're looking at anyway, so it isn't going to be sort of a major significant part of the final look. However, what you can see is that yellow that I've put on the cloth here is sort of washed in as a white, and that's because of how pale it is. However, it has nicely blocked in where we want the cloth to have a slightly yellow tint to it. And so when I come to put in some of the slightly stronger yellows, that should help those show through. So that's all I'm going to do with the dawn yellow. Next one I'm going to move on to is, again, a Citadel. I work with Citadel almost exclusively. This is Flashgit's Yellow. And as you can see, it's got a much stronger tone to it than the Dawn Yellow. This is sort of a more sort of standard lemon kind of colour, I would have said. And what I'm going to be doing with this one is sort of just giving a bit of depth to that shade, or that hint of yellow that we've put on the model already. So again, as yesterday, I'm glazing, so we mix the paint up and then make sure that we've only got a small amount on the brush because we don't want it going everywhere. And then, as you can see, this colour is just putting in more depth of yellow where the surface is going to reflect more. And then what we will do, as we've sort of started to add this in, we'll then add some slightly more warmer tones, just on some of the surfaces to sort of start adding that sort of fire glow effect. So just on the upper surfaces, and as this sort of, this is sort of quite a curved piece here, so I am trying to leave the bottom half uncoloured, or sort of its original tone, and apply the yellow to these upper surfaces, but keeping it translucent. We don't want this to just look like it's been painted yellow. We want the colour underneath to still show through, but to have a yellow tint to it. I would imagine contrast paint probably works quite well for this. However, I don't have any, I don't have any yellow, and so I can't sort of practice that or show you what that's going to look like. So now moving on to the cloth, and as you can see, where we've put the dawn yellow on, and it sort of almost came out that sort of murky white sort of colour. This going over the top is tinting that sort of murky white into a bit more of that healthy sort of yellow tone that we're looking for, from a cloth sort of bathed in firelight. So let's just pop some more on here. And that should just give us a nice sort of suggestion here that there's a fiery glow nearby. Not that this is actually on fire itself. That's not quite the look we're going for. There we go. So we've got sort of a nice yellow kind of tone in there. So then the last yellow I'm going to use is Ariel Yellow. And this is just going to, again, sort of come on an even more select group of surfaces than before. It's one of the colours that I used in here, sort of mostly actually under where it's gone orange there. However, again, it just provides sort of a slightly stronger element of colour that we're looking for, where the brazier is nearest. And as you can see, what I'm actually doing with this part here is going in the opposite direction to the way that we painted the cloth yesterday. And again, that's because the strongest colour is going to come from the light source, and therefore the parts of the cloth nearer the light source will show that colour stronger, or that's where we want the colour to be stronger and apparently be coming from. If we'd put it the other way, it would seem as if all of this yellow was coming from above, which it clearly isn't, and therefore that's not where we need it to show. The main, again, sort of very much as with the glazing yesterday, I mean, it is also a glazing process. What we're trying to do is build up steady, gradual changes in colour. So actually what we don't want is a thick paint. We want this paint to be nice and thin, nice and translucent, and that, I mean, yeah, yellows are obviously a very good colour in that respect to be doing an effect like this with, because the paint is pretty translucent anyway. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of this army goes with the yellow armour, and how easy it is to paint, and whether I've bitten off a slightly poisonous chunk of cake in terms of building and painting this on a sort of on a time pressure. So if we just pop this back into the base, just to check how it's coming along. There we go. So we've got the flames. I'm not going to come all the way out here with this effect, because there is probably more of it to do when the model is sort of in a more finalised state of assembly. Essentially, by which I mean she's got a hooking great heavy bolter to add on, and I might have to adjust exactly where she's standing to sort of to fit that in. I think probably something like that. So I mean that heavy bolter will get quite a bit of its own OSL on it when that's painted. So because we're further away from the light source on this side, we're going to sort of try and keep this effect less. So I went sort of very orange on the other side, and I think I even put some red in there, albeit Wild Rider red, on this side, because of how close that foot is to the brazier there. On this side, we're much further away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using Fire Dragon Bright, and this is as dark as I'm going to come on this side. So this is a really nice sort of light orange. We're just going to use that to put a bit of warmth into this yellow. Just on the more sort of, again, on the parts nearer where this light source is coming from. So we're going to brush towards it. When you're doing a heavier OSL effect like I did on the other leg. I did it on that one. I did actually go as far as to sort of use almost a dry brushing technique in places to really sort of bring the colour through. But I think you have to sort of trial and error a bit in terms of how you want the effect to look, how strong you want it to be, how far you are away from the light source, how bright is the light source. Yeah, I mean, some glowing effects are going to be considerably more subtle than others. With this one being sort of a fire effect, I wanted it to be fairly striking. And I'm also factoring in that I'm not planning on putting a whole huge amount of colour into the model other than this effect. Morvenn, she's going to have sort of the red skirts, but I'm not going to be sort of adding a huge number of other colours onto that model from elsewhere. So just going to bring some of it into this red here, just to sort of widen this glowing effect on this side. And hopefully, as you can just see, it's just starting to take nicely. A little bit of an orange sort of hint. Around where those yellows are. There we go. So I will blend this back in to the red on this side a little bit. Just because that effect is slightly too strong. As you probably noticed earlier, I just had to make sure that I adjusted the position of the leg based on where that heavy bolter was going. And so I'm just going to blend out this yellow just around this corner here. And what I'm using for this is actually the Mephiston red of the robe, the original sort of colour. And I'm using that for sort of two reasons. One, I want to get this robe back to that colour at some point. And by sort of using this dark tone, I can make sort of quite a quicker transition in terms of actually making the change. That's a quicker transition time-wise. I mean, than would be the case obviously if I was using sort of several other colours to blend it out. There we go. So as you can see, we've just taken, so we've just taken this edge really, and sort of gradually transitioned that, just narrowed it down a bit, so that when the light's coming from here, it's not sort of skipping round the corner and over the leg armour. I think what I might do is just add another orange, which will be Troll Slayer orange. Just to the very edges of that armour where the glow is. And I think that will probably be it. I don't think we want to use a red on this side. We'll take the effects slightly too far, I think. That. So we'll get most of the paint off, put some back on the brush, and then we'll just in the centre of these areas, we'll just bring in some slightly more vivid sort of orange colour. Just a little bit like this. Okay, so that's the orange done. Then, just to finish it off, and because we've got a few little sort of shadows in there, I just want to sort of pick out. I just popped a little bit of Fuegan orange onto my palette. This is a Citadel shade. And I'm just going to paint that very sort of deliberately into the recesses where I just want this sort of glow effect to combine with a shadow. With it being a shade paint, obviously it's sort of very, very translucent, and we can just use it to sort of deepen those areas of the model that would sort of naturally pick up a bit of a shadow as well as the glow. There we go. So there we have sort of another glowing element based off the brazier there. So now I need to start looking at the torso. I have still got this bit of detail on the front to paint here, but I'm going to come back and do that. I think probably in a very pale silver, once I've decanted my new pot of Storm Host into a dropper bottle. So the next bit, I need to figure out what colour all of this is going to be and how visible it all is. And then we are going to start looking at the upper half of Morvenn Vahl's body. You can see I've done a few bits of silver already, just won't know those are going to be sketched out. And I'm not looking forward to painting all of these fleur-de-lis, but they need to be done, so they will be done. So I will catch you in the next one, or the next part of this video. Hello and welcome back. When I last left you, I was working on Morvenn Vahl, and I said I was going to come back and sort of look at what we're doing in the upper half of the model. Turns out I got distracted, forgot to do the video and finished it. Sorry about that. So as you can see, the OSL on the legs is done.
I've put some onto the shield of, I think it's called Fidelis, the heavy bolter, around there. That's all done. I have got another brazier to put just down here to sort of justify all this heavier OSL around this sort of area, but that can go on at a later date. That's not sort of crucial right at this moment. I have to say the upper part of this model went so quickly in terms of being sort of getting finished in comparison to the bottom half. I mean, I have sort of consciously made a decision to keep it sort of quite pale and quite plain in terms of detail. I mean, the statue, sort of the angel statue or battle sister statues there, they're just basically celestial grey, ulthuan grey, and a bit of white, dry brushed over the top. But I wanted them to deliberately sort of be plain, as if they were actual carved stone, as opposed to sort of a detailed decoration. I mean, the shoulder pad here is Iron Warriors metal with some glimmering blue glaze in it, and then a highlight of Stormhouse silver. The fleur-de-lis are all sort of done in my combo of reds. I'll try to keep it sort of fairly subtle. I think possibly the most sort of decorative bit, if you excuse me, let's just walk around here, is this part of the blade with sort of the slightly sort of OSL blue, the fade through from right through from black to yellow on the blade tip itself, and then the sort of the warm gold sort of base of the blade there. That warm gold I've also done on Morvenn Vahl's laurel wreath around her helmet. I did consider doing it green, but there's no green elsewhere on the model, and so that would have been a sort of an odd contrast point there. Got a bit of OSL blue glow around her eye lenses on the helmet there. And then I said I was panicking about these fleur-de-lis. They actually weren't that bad. Again, some dry brushing on there to sort of pick out the colours, and then just a very light edge highlight, and we were done. So very pleased with how she's come out. I've got a game planned against my good buddy Robin, release on the DCTV Discord. We're going to be hunting Morvenn Vahl with a Tau fire team. So we'll see how she gets on there. She is going to be wounded. There's going to be it's a custom scenario that I've written just for the event. So we'll get that filmed, and we'll get that done as a battle report on the channel, and hopefully that will be quite an interesting game, and that will then lead on into the second month of DCTV's Hobbypocalypse. Another, well, in my case, 320 points. I'm doing a Battle Sister Squad, a Rhino and a Palatine to add to Morvenn Vahl, and then we'll get another game film with Robin once we know what happens in the first one. But for me, it's back to priming a lot of stuff. So I'll see you in the next video.